Okay, so today is the start of the lowering kit install on Dad's 70 Camaro. We're going to be installing 2-inch lowering leaf springs in the back and also 2-inch lowering coil springs up front. We're going to start off with taking the whole rear end out, and I'll show you how that comes out. It's not as difficult as you might think. Okay, so I got the car up in the air and got the tires back on it. And I'm going to show you how we're going to take it off here. I'm going to take that bolt out of the shackle. And then we've got 3 bolts here on the front of the leaf spring that hold it to the car body. 1, 2, 3, and the whole mount comes down out of the car. And one reason we're pulling this out of the car is, you can see, painted the axle orange. The car was going to be hugger orange. I'm not sure why we painted the axle, but it's kind of dumb looking, I think. So I'm going to go back to black with it. So when we pull this whole assembly out, I'll be painting that black. But yeah, there's the shackle bolt. That's a flat head. I think it's got a square head and it fits inside the shackle there, and there's a regular bolt on the other side. So we'll just take them out. I don't even think they're tight. We just installed them. So I'll drop it down on the ground. I'll set it slightly on the tires, and then we'll take out all the bolts and we'll get this thing out of the car. So here's the axle out of the car with the leaf springs. Get a better look at it. You can see the hugger orange a little better under here too. It seemed like a good idea at the time to color match that to the car. But since we're doing a color change, we're not going with hugger orange. And it really doesn't fit the car. These were black from the factory, so you can see it's a little dirty from body work and just plain sitting here in the shop without being installed. So we're going to get this disassembled, and we're going to get these leaf springs that are coming off. We're going to keep the mounts here, and the leaf springs come with new bushings and everything. So we're going to take this apart. I'm going to get this ready for paint. We'll paint her black, chassis black, same as the frame. Okay, so Dad got the axle tore down yesterday, and I got it painted last night. So it's back to black. Should be more of what it would have come factory. I'm not sure. They even painted the rear ends back then, but this one is now painted. Much better than that, the orange, I think. I think that aluminum cover looks better even with the factory type black look. So not exactly sure what we're doing with that cover. If it's going to be polished and painted, or just the fins polished out, we don't know. But next thing is to get the lowering leaf springs mounted on it. I'm going to give this about a day to get hard before we start messing with it. So that'll be coming up next. Okay, just want to do a quick comparison of these leaf springs. Obviously the top one is the factory one we pulled out. Not exactly sure that is factory though. This car came with a trailer hitch in the back, so someone was pulling a small trailer. So I don't know if they beefed up the leaf spring or not. This lower one, this is the Hotchkis lowering leaf spring. Supposed to get 2 inches out of it. Might be more than that. I don't know. It looks like quite a bit of difference. I mean, there are quite a few leaves on this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 leaves on that one, and then there's 3 leaves on the Hotchkis one. Although they do look thicker, the leaves look thicker on this one than the OEM one. So we'll see. Now it comes with polyurethane bushings and everything. There's already something installed there, so they already got that one installed. So we're gonna get this on the axle installed. It comes with, I believe, new U-bolts and perches and brackets and stuff. So I believe it comes with everything you need to install it. So we're gonna get these on the axle, hopefully get it underneath the car and back installed. Okay, so one other thing here I've done to the car is I've put the fill-in primer all over the body here. I went ahead and did that after I pulled the rear end out. Okay, so you can see me and Dad, we've got the rear end back in. We've got the Hotchkis lowering leaf springs in place. Now, there's a few changes that are done for this lowering kit. One thing you're going to notice is there's 2 U-bolts in this kit. The factory used T-bolts on the inside mount, not a U-bolt. I ended up cutting off a brake line holder deal. I had to cut it off on both sides so that that U-bolt will sit straight without being crooked. Because like I said, the factory had T-bolts in this location from the factory. But this is probably a stronger way to do it anyway. And with that U-bolt there, there's no way to use that holder, that brake line holder anyway. So there's no point in it being there. Another thing I had to do, or we had to do, Dad drilled out the mounts for the U-bolts here. Had to drill them out to 1/2 inch. Had to do this plate, this bottom plate, and the axle perch. Those bolts, or those holes right there, had to be drilled out to 1/2 inch because Hotchkis is using bigger U-bolts for their kit. So again, probably stronger. Another thing that is different is this mount here. I had to change out the bushings. We had some polyurethane bushings for the factory leaf springs. They weren't going to work for this, so we had to put in the bushings on the Hotchkis kit that it came with. It's a bit narrower than the factory ones, and you can see the shackles are much thicker than the factory shackles. So again, stronger, should be a stronger design. We got that going on both sides here, and you can see the bolts are coming in from opposite ends, but you have to do that because that's the only way you can get them in there, because you can see the trunk floor is there. You're not going to get the bolt in. The directions explain everything to you. So I've got everything relatively tight. You can't tighten up the shackles or the front bolt until you have the weight of the car on it, so we can't do that yet. But everything is looking good. I cannot wait to see what this thing looks like on the ground with these new springs. Should look awesome, lowered down. I think we're gonna move on to the front now. We'll get those front springs installed. So we're gonna move on to that. We end up using the transmission jack to actually set the axle up in place first, and then we put the leaf springs on. And we're going to be using this jack for the front springs. Dad made a tool. Okay, so on to the front suspension. Going to be replacing the coil springs with the Hotchkis springs. And to do that, I'm going to use the transmission jack, same thing we use for the rear end, and same thing we've used for transmissions and all kinds of stuff, transfer cases. But we got a tool here that Dad built to do this, and there it is. It is bolted down to the transmission jack. Basically, what you do is these grooves here and here, they're going to fit on the lower control arms. They're going to go up there on this one and on that side, and we're going to put pressure on it. We're going to pull the bolts out for the control arms. Then we're going to release the pressure and release the spring pressure. Bring it down far enough to be able to get the spring out. And we're going to stick the new spring in there. We are not going to touch the ball joints or anything, which is usually you take off the ball joints and, you know, drop the lower control arm down that way and pull the spring out. But this, I believe there is a tool. Dad made this one. I believe you can buy a tool like this to do this, and surprisingly it works out pretty easy. When we first did it, it was really weird because like we've never seen it done that way. We've always seen the ball joints come out and then you bring the lower control arm down and then the spring comes out. So I think this is actually a safer way to do it because the spring you know, can't fly back at you or anything. So we're going to get this tool in position and get the spring out. Finally. Okay, so we got her out of there. I don't think it's necessary to remove that. Just kind of gives you a little more room to work. You do have to push the whole assembly up to get the spring out. It's been a long time since me and Dad installed these. So, yeah, it should be, I don't know, like a 15-minute job really with this transmission jack. It's very simple this way and a lot safer, I think. So here's the spring comparison. You can see, maybe not quite, but you can see there's quite a difference in that Hotchkis spring versus the factory spring. The coil might be a little thicker than the factory spring, what I'm seeing, maybe. I have to probably mic that to actually confirm that, but it looks a little thicker. But these should actually be a lot easier to install too. They ain't quite so long. Should be a lot easier. They say a 2-inch drop. It honestly looks like it's going to drop more than that, but like I said, maybe the coils are thicker, so it's going to hold the car up a little more than the factory ones, but we won't know that till we get them in there, get it on the ground, and we'll take a look at what we got. So we're going to get these springs installed. The installation is the reverse of what you just saw. You just stick it in there, jack it up, install your lower control arm bolts, and the other side same exact thing. So we're gonna get these installed, and I'll be back. And there she be, guys. 2 Hotchkis springs installed. I tried to do this side without unhooking the steering linkage, and it's not going to work, so you're going to have to take that off. But like I said before, you know, 15 minutes aside with this tool here. Very simple job, actually. So we got that front end done. Now one more thing, the rear sway bar. Okay, so now look at the sway bar kit I'm going to be installing. I went with a Summit Racing sway bar kit. That seemed to be one of the few kits that used the factory brackets for the sway bar. This car did come with the sway bar. You can see there it is. Looks like about a 1/2 inch sway bar. This one is a 1 inch sway bar. So it's quite an improvement gonna be. This is, you know, the car was an SS, so this is the sway bar. It come with the SS, a very small one. Z28 I think came with a larger sway bar, but 1 inch matches the front actually, so big improvement. Also has nice heavy duty brackets and everything, polyurethane bushings, so comes with all the hardware you're gonna need. It's gray colored. It's got like a hammer tone paint, gray, so it kind of matches the new gray coil springs up front we just stuck in. So it pretty much looks like it bolts in the factory way, underneath the leaf springs, and then there are brackets welded underneath the car. So, you know, why not use that? Some of the kits, they were wanting you to drill out the frame and enlarge holes and stuff, and doesn't make no sense why you would do all kinds of modifications when the brackets are already there from the factory. So this should be an easy bolt-on install. It does come with brackets. If you don't have factory holes in your frame or factory brackets for the sway bar. One note about polyurethane bushings, you're going to want to grease them up. They have a special grease they will send you, and you want to grease your bushings up pretty good. Otherwise, you're going to get a squeak. So use the grease that they give you. This grease is very sticky, very messy. Once it sticks on something, it's really hard to get it off. So it's a messy grease, but it's needed if you don't want squeaks. Okay, so we run into a pretty major issue down here. You can see they are mounted in the same location as the factory sway bar is, but when I raise the sway bar up, I'm hitting the aluminum differential cover, and I can't get the brackets to line up. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna modify these brackets. I gotta lengthen them 3 inches. So that's what I'm gonna do to get this sway bar kit to work. Should bring the sway bar down somewhere around here. Should give me plenty of clearance. Right here, I'm not willing to not run this cover because I spent a lot of money on it. And hopefully it's gonna clear the fuel tank, which sits right in here. I guess when we get the fuel tank, we'll know if that's a problem, and then we'll have to go from there. But okay, so I got the piece cut, and surprisingly, that is a solid piece of 3/4 inch steel that they used. I was for sure it was going to be hollow. We've got a piece of 3/4, so I'm just going to add on. I'm going to bevel the edge here on both these pieces so I can get a nice good heavy weld on there, and we should be good. Okay, so I got my bevels all done here so I can get a nice good weld on them. I gotta figure out the orientation here because this goes a certain way, so I gotta figure that out before I tack it on. Okay, so I'm ready to weld. A little tip here, if you're trying to get a straight piece, if you have a straight piece of angle iron, you can clamp that to it and you should be able to get pretty darn straight. Don't need to be perfect with this, but I'd like it to be pretty straight. Okay, so here's my extension welded on. Once I know it works and it's gonna fit, I'll make another one. I may come in and weld that up. I think I got it pretty good, but I might fill it in there all the way. So once this cools down, we're gonna do a test fit and hopefully make another one. Okay, so we got them in there. Both of them made. Bolted on, not really tightened down. I don't like up here, the bolt seems like it's too small and it's like slop in it. So I'm gonna run a bigger bolt up there. Just have to drill out the hole a little bit. And that'll be good. I measured the factory mount and this is only like a 1/2 inch longer than the factory mount. The factory mount was like 11.5 inches long. So I don't know if something's different or something, but yeah, it definitely turned out to not be a bolt-on kit. But I've got all my clearances. Got good clearance there between the aluminum housing. Everything looks good. So I'm just gonna leave that in there for now because I want to drop the car down. I want to see what it looks like with this lowering kit in there, and then eventually I'll pull this out and paint it, but it's good enough for now. It'll get me where I need to be. I don't think that's going to interfere with the fuel tank, because I don't think the fuel tank even goes down that far. So I think I'm going to be good. I'm going to get the tires on this thing, drop it down, and see how low we are. So there it is in the ground, guys. I'm a little disappointed with the front. According to my measurements, the car is level, but this front tire here is a 14 inch, and I don't know. I just think like the front should have went down farther. But it didn't. The rear looks good. I like the rear, so. But the front, there was another spacer. There's an aluminum spacer in the front that the factory used, and I think I'm going to take that out. See if I can't get a little more drop in the front. I might research, see if we can't get another little bit of drop out of it, maybe. I don't know. I'm going to take it outside, pull it on the pad there, get some pictures of it, see what it looks like. And still, I guess you got to remember, quite a bit of stuff has to go on it yet, so it is going to go down too. You know, the hood, doors, interior, you know, all the fluids, radiator, front end, you know, all that stuff weighs something. So I guess you don't want to go too far down right now, but I don't know. We'll see. This is what I got now, guys. We'll see what happens later on. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.